Hey everyone, Alex here from Japanese Masters, and today we're going to go over Minna no Nihongo, Lesson 5, Part 6, that is yo. Okay, let's go ahead and dive right on into this. Okay, so as you can see here, we have our really simple single hiragana character, yo. That is what the focus of today's lesson is going to be on. The first thing we should do is translate into English. I put the translation to something like, it'd be something like, it's going to rain tomorrow. However, this is just a very vague translation because this is one of those structures that doesn't really have a direct translation into English and has a whole bunch of little subtle meanings in Japanese that really aren't emphasized in English by written words. They're more emphasized in English by tone. So this can be a little bit complicated to grasp. However, I think I got all of the usages generally mapped out, so hopefully when we go through them and break it down a little bit more, we'll be able to understand it. Okay, let's go ahead and dive right on into breaking it down. So, yo is what is known as a sentence ending particle or a sentence final particle. We talked about this in the previous lessons. Ka and ne are also both sentence final particles, where ne is kind of like the agreement one, like isn't it? And then ka is how you make something into a question. Yo is going to be another one of those sentence final particles. And it is used basically to emphasize the speaker's answer or their opinion. It shows a level of confidence in the answer. And it kind of translates to or I tell you, something like that. Those little kind of things that we put into English dialogue that you never see in actually written words is kind of how this translates to. It's really to emphasize a point. Breaking it down a little bit further, one of the meanings that you can use this for is when you can use it to emphasize your confidence in an answer and you're assuming that they don't know this information. For example, if someone like a tourist came up and asked you, is there a movie theater nearby? If you knew that there's a movie theater down the road on the corner, because you've been there a whole bunch of times, you live here, you'd be like, yes, there is a movie theater nearby. That's when you'd use the yo particle, because you're confident in your answer and you're giving that person a piece of information that they don't know because they just asked a question asking if there is a movie theater nearby. Then you would use the yo particle to be like, yes, there is a movie theater nearby, yo, like at the end of the sentence, really emphasizing your confidence in that answer. Now, another time you can actually use the yo particle, it can be used to emphasize a point in a difference of opinion. So I put the example here at something like, the curry is delicious. Like, curry is delicious. The way that I think about this is like two friends arguing back and forth. And one friend might say something like, oh, curry is disgusting. And then you would reply with something like, what? Curry is delicious. And then that yo at the end really emphasizes that point, that you have a difference of opinion in there and you are asserting your opinion. No, it is delicious. It's not disgusting. Like something like, curry wa oishii desu yo. That yo at the end gives that emphasis on that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the last kind of thing we're going to go over today with it. And yo can be used to make a command stronger. So if you use the normal command structure of something, or you could use like the halfway polite versions, if you add yo, it makes it a little bit stronger, a little bit more abrasive. It's the same way that if you actually add ne after a command, it'll actually soften it a little bit. Yo, if you add after it, will actually make it a little bit stronger. So ne will make it a little bit weaker, yo will make it a little bit stronger. It's another one of those little tiny subtle differences you can put in sentences to really tone in on the kind of, strength you want your command to have. And then this one is just more for fun and in case you head to Osaka or the region around it. Ya is the actual Kansai variant of yo. What I mean by variant is that there are a whole bunch of different dialects in Japan. The two major dialects, I would say, are probably Tokyo-ben, which is generally what is taught when it's more textbook Japanese, but there are a couple nuanced words in there. And then there's Kansai-ben. Kansai-ben is actually the dialect for the Kansai region of Japan, which includes Osaka, Kyoto, and stuff like that. Kyoto actually has its own ben too, but the region's ben is Kansai-ben, and there's actually a whole bunch of different grammatical structures that go with that. But ya is the Kansai variant of yo. However, it has slightly different usage. Only reason I'm bringing it up is so if you hear a sentence end with ya, just kind of think along the lines of yo, because they're very, very similar in meaning. However, when you actually create a command, there's a different way to create commands in Kansai Ben. If you add ya to the end of that different way to create commands, it actually has the same effect as ne and makes it weaker, not stronger. So it can get a little bit confusing. Generally, I really just wanted to bring this up just so that if you hear it, you know what it is, and you don't think it's some totally strange new particle that we haven't covered yet. It's basically yo with some slight changes. Okay, let's go ahead and go into a couple of example sentences. Okay, so the first one is going to be the example sentence that I was talking about with the two friends arguing. That game was fun. そのゲームは楽しかったですよ. This one is going to be where maybe a person or a group of people, you're discussing something and some guy was like, oh yeah, that game wasn't fun at all. Then you could reply with something like, そのゲームは楽しかったですよ. You're basically emphasizing that point, that you have a difference of opinion. You're saying, no, that game was fun. And if you notice right there, I did that yo with a tone in English. I said that game was fun. I put an emphasis on was to really emphasize what I'm talking about, that I have a difference of opinion of the person who is saying the game wasn't fun. But emphasizing that was in English, that's how we create the yo particle. That's why this is so hard to initially grasp in Japanese, is because they use a written word for something that we use with tone. So this one would be an example of showing, a difference of opinion. You'll see this a lot. Just listen to any sort of if you watch any J-dramas or even, anime, anything like that. Listen for the conversation. If you see two people generally arguing or disagreeing or anything like that, you'll see yo added to the end of it a lot. And it doesn't have to be an argument. It could be two friends having a friendly argument, back and forth. But yeah, that is what that shows. Before I move on, though, let's go ahead and just break this down just to make sure we know all the parts of it. We have our sono, that is just the that. We covered that in a couple lessons back. Geimu is the loan word for game. Then we have tanoshikatta. Tanoshi means to have fun or to be fun. So tanoshikatta is the past tense of that. And then we have our classic wa des structure. However, more or less, this is saying the was, but I had to put the copula to do something, and it kind of has the was structure. And then the yo in this instance kind of translates to the exclamation point. Because, you're having the difference of opinion, you're, yelling at your friend saying, no, that was fun, something like that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next example sentence, though. The next example sentence, this one is going to cover the part that I was talking about where you're giving someone a new piece of information that you basically have a high confidence in. That would be, yes, there is definitely a 7-Eleven nearby. Remember, in English, we use the tone in order to describe the yo. I just said it in that sentence. Yes, there is definitely a 7-Eleven nearby. That emphasis on the definitely implies that kind of yo, that confidence. But this is, 近くに 7-Eleven がありますよ. Okay, so breaking this sentence down, we have our This is yes, but is slightly less formal than hi, but it's still considered formal. It's used a lot just so people don't have to say hi all the time. It's a different way to say yes. Then we have chikaku ni. That just means nearby. Chikaku or chikai means close or near. Chikaku is the adverb form of it. So chikaku ni is the close by, nearby version of that. Then 7-Eleven. This is 7-Eleven. That is just it in katakana. These stores, if you don't know, even if they're not so popular in the United States anymore or other countries, they are still very, very popular in Japan. They're all over the place. And actually, if you're a foreigner, generally, your ATM card, if you want to withdraw money, only will work at a 7-Eleven because 7-Eleven has 7-Bank, which is a world bank. So as a foreigner, if you go to Japan, you'll be looking for 7-Elevens nearby. So you might actually hear this question a lot. You might have to ask this question a lot. Is there a 7-Eleven nearby? And then we have our just ga arimasu, which just means there is. And then the yo in this instance kind of means definitely. Like I said a little bit earlier, when you put the emphasis on that definitely, that's kind of what the yo is implying. It is saying that you know that there is one nearby because you have been to it or you just know. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the final example sentence. The final example sentence is don't eat so fast. This one is showing how to make a command a little bit stronger. This would be hayaku tabinasai de ne. This one would be hayaku tabinasai de yo. So the first thing I want to really go over on this one is, if you noticed, I use tabe nasai de. So there's different forms of commands that we'll cover in future lessons and stuff. This one is the nasai, this part right here. This one is generally used with a parent talking to a child. It's my host mom used it all the time with my host sisters. My host sisters were 6 and 4 when I was there, and the 4-year-old would never eat her food. So my host mom would always be like, Koto-chan, tabe nasai, which is just like saying, Koto, eat please, please eat. But it's a command telling her to eat. And then adding the de onto the end of it is going to make it negative, so that'd be saying don't eat. But the reason I use the nasai form for this sentence structure is because that's the only time I'd really think that you would tell someone not to eat so fast. I mean, I guess you could do it with friends if, one of your friends looks like they're eating really fast, but I think a really common one might be a parent telling their child not to eat so fast. So I want to use that form. Also, show it to you a little bit. And then the yo is going to make this command stronger. I don't know, maybe the child's been eating this fast the last 4 or 5 meals and the parent has to keep telling them not to, so they added a little more emphasis this time. Made it a little bit stronger, telling them not to eat so fast. And then the hayaku here just means quickly. So that is going to be quickly, do not eat. And that is going to be the end of today's lesson. I hope it made sense. If it doesn't make complete sense, don't worry. Yo is another one of those particles that you just gotta see a whole bunch of times before you really get it into your mind. This should hopefully give you a nice foundation on what you should expect and how you should use this form. If you don't feel confident enough to use it right now, don't worry. One of my professors actually had a interesting point about this, where he said that yo is used X number of times in Japanese, and then they compared it to what foreigners use, and foreigners barely use yo because we're just not confident enough to use it. So if you're not confident enough in the beginning, don't worry, you're in the mass majority. However, hopefully these 3 points that I was talking about here will help you out a little bit to start understanding it, especially when you start recognizing it, because the more you recognize it, the more it'll be in your brain, and then hopefully you'll feel confident enough to use it in the future. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to put it in the comments below. I'd be happy to clarify anything. Other than that, keep studying Japanese, everyone. I'll see you next time. All right, bye.